This is Full Coffers with your host, Phil and Toni Buggs from Abundant Harvest Christian Fellowship Ministries.
And this week on Full Coffers, it's The Journey, Part 2. The last time we left you, we had started basically going together. It was April 11th, 78. So we're going to fast forward a little bit. And we dated. Well, I don't want to fast forward too much.
Yeah.
I went to his senior prom.
At 14?
At 14.
And I was 17.
Exactly. So that was a little bit of a feat because...
Tell him why. Tell him why.
he was older and he drove a car. And with my mother, that was a big no-no. She was a little, she was a lot apprehensive. It's kind of funny. When Philip... wanted to go to the prom, I initially says, I don't think that's going to happen. You don't know my mother. Now, in kind of bringing you up to speed, my parents had stayed separated for a long time. And then finally in 77, she allowed, I shouldn't say that, they decided to reconcile. And my father left New York and he moved to Detroit or Highland Park with us. So they had been back together for about a year.
And they were together when we started dating.
Exactly. So what I did was I said, Philip, let me come and ask my father, because my father, although he had his moments, he also had a soft heart. And so I thought if I could at least get Philip to talk to my father could maybe have some influence on my mother. Of course, I'm very calculating in everything that I did. So my father agreed to meet Philip, and I remember that day he came over. Philip was in something called Civil Air Patrol, and he had his blues on, and he looked very handsome in his uniform. And so he came up, and he talked to my father, and I went outside on the front porch, and they talked.
Toni did set it up for me to talk to her father, and actually I found it a little odd that she had mentioned that her mother would be a harder ticket than her father. Mm-hmm. Well, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if I talk to the father, then, it should be pretty much downhill. And that's because in my family, while my father was soft-spoken, he did make those kinds of decisions. So, plus, I wanted to introduce myself to Toni's father, which is what I did. And I'm thinking, oh, this is great. I mean, Mr. Armstead was nice, and we talked, and okay, it did help that I had the Silver Air Patrol dress blues on.
Right.
And 20 seconds, Silver Air Patrol was it was like ROTC, but instead of Army, it was Air Force related. So we had the fatigue, the green fatigues and the dress blues and the summer blues. So anyway, I had just came from one of my Silver Air Patrol meetings, and that's when I met him. I drove back. And I stopped by her house.
Yep.
So I'm thinking, I'm thinking everything is fine. He's saying yes, no problem.
Exactly.
And I walked home like a proud peacock that I'm going to the prom with this cute girl.
Because prior to him asking me, his mother actually offered to take him to the prom.
Yes. You had to bring that up. Well, actually, this was before Toni and I started dating, and I could not buy a date for the prom. And I had decided not to go. And this is how my mother was. You're going to the prom, even if I have to take you. Can you imagine how that sounds to a 7? I mean, I'm getting a mental picture of all my other friends in their day, and who do I have? My mother.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm so glad God blessed me with
Yeah, from what I understand, Philip was around knocking on everybody's doors like, will you go to the prom with me? poor boy. But anyway, after the encounter with my father, everything went smooth. But you know what? We still had to get past my mother.
And I didn't understand. What's the big deal?
Mm-hmm.
I was soon going to find out.
Yes. My mother was out at the time that Philip had came over. So when she got home, my father, they sat at the dining room table, and my father commenced to saying that he met the young man, he likes him, and didn't see anything wrong with me going to the prom. And immediately my mother said, no way, that's not going to happen. She's not going. So I'm sitting here looking at my father, who's looking back at me. And okay, if we talk a little bit about the dynamics in my home, since Philip brought it up, it's an odd thing sometimes in certain households. You would think that because of my father's behavior, that he would have the final say so in the home. Unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. Oddly enough, my father really had a soft spot. He really, when everything was calm and normal, he was really a very nice person to be around. Funny, he had very dry humor, but he was just a fun person to be with, and so he had a heart. And he felt that, I was a great girl. I, got great grades in school. I was obedient. And, what was wrong with it? Philip was a nice young man. He went to church. And she said no. And so I was kind of in a quandary because, one, I didn't want this situation to cause an escalation in the home. But on the other hand, I wanted to go to the prom. So I was, how can I say this? I was an obedient child, but I was also a very tenacious child. And if I got something stuck in my head, I wasn't going to let it go. So I just had to go back and recalculate how I was going to make this happen. And long story short, I ended up going to the prom.
Hence, Toni's fascination with the sitcom back in her day of Lucy. I come to then let you know that Toni implemented Lucy's tenacity when she wanted to get something from Ricky.
Oh, yeah. He was going to let me be in the show.
Believe me, all those talents and skills came to bear. And lo and behold, her mother consented. Mm-hmm. And we were able to go to the prom.
That's right.
Whew, Mama could put away her dress.
That night was magical.
It was really cool.
I remember him. We got the color was burgundy because back in the day you had to dress the same color, and so he asked me what color my dress was going to be. And a sweet moment, a tender moment was my father took me to J.C. Penney's and he actually bought my dress. It was a $20 dress. Wasn't anything fancy. Was on the clearance rack, but it was a burgundy type color. So I told Philip what color it was, and he went and he got his tuxedo. It was burgundy. Had those ruffles though.
Oh man! If you Google any movie and put burgundy tux, that's probably the tux you'll see me wearing.
Exactly. And but honestly, it was kind of cool because his sister had a car. It was a Fury.
Yep, a sports Fury. And it was white, and it had a burgundy vinyl quarter top on it.
So we was digging in the scene in the gangster league, man.
We thought we were just killing it.
That's right. And we went to this restaurant called Doug's Body Shop.
Yep.
And it was a very grown-up restaurant. And we met some of his friends there, and all of us had dinner. Some of them tried to get a drink, but they weren't 18.
Because we were telling on everybody, you ain't 18 yet. But interesting, we laugh about that, but at that time, they had dropped the age from 21 to 18. About 2 or 3 years later, they came to their senses. And took it back up to 21 before those few short years, the drinking age actually